An-Nisa 34. An-Nisa 4:34 is the 34th verse in the 4th chapter of the Quran. This verse adjudges the role of a husband as protector and maintainer of his wife. Scholars vastly differ on the implications of this verse, with many Muslim apologists arguing that it serves as a deterrent from anger-based domestic violence, whereas some Muslims, such as Islamic feminist groups, argue that the text is a justification for domestic violence. The translation of the verse is also subject to debate among Muslim scholars, which can read "strike them wives" or lightly strike them or beat them or scourge them, depending on the translator. Furthermore, as that said in a hadith transmitted by Abu Huraira, slapping someone across their face was forbidden. English translations. George Sale. Men shall have the preeminence above women, because of those advantages wherein Allah hath caused the one of them to excel the other, and for that which they expend of their substance in maintaining their wives. The honest women are obedient, careful in the absence of their husbands, for that Allah preserveth them by committing them to the care and protection of the men. But those whose perverseness ye shall be apprehensive of rebuke, and remove them into separate apartments, and chastise them. But if they shall be obedient unto you, seek not an occasion of quarrel against them, for Allah is high and great. Marmaduke Pitfall. Men look after women, because Allah has made the one of them to excel the other, and because they spend of their property for the support of women. So good women are the obedient, guarding in secret that which Allah hath guarded. As for those from whom ye fear rebellion, admonish them and banish them to beds apart, and scourge them. Then, if they obey you, seek not a way against them. Lo, Allah is ever high, exalted, great. Mohammed Taqi Usmani. Men are caretakers of women, since Allah has made some of them excel the others, and because of the wealth they have spent. So, the righteous women are obedient and guard the property and honor of their husbands in their absence with the protection given by Allah. As for women of whom you fear rebellion, convince them and leave them apart in beds, and beat them. Then, if they obey you, do not seek a way against them. Surely Allah is the highest, the greatest. Dr. Mustafa Khatib. Men are the caretakers of women, as men have been provisioned by Allah over women and tasked with supporting them financially. And righteous women are devoutly obedient and, when alone, protective of what Allah has entrusted them with. And, if you sense ill conduct from your women, advise them, first, if they persist, do not share their beds, but if they still persist, then discipline them gently. But if they change their ways, do not be unjust to them. Surely Allah is most high, all great. Abdullah Yusuf Ali. Men are the protectors and maintainers of women, because Allah has given the one more strength than the other, and because they support them from their means. Therefore the righteous women are devoutly obedient, and guard in the husband's absence what Allah would have them guard. As to those women on whose part ye fear disloyalty and ill conduct, admonish them first, next refuse to share their beds, and last beat them lightly. But if they return to obedience, seek not against them means of annoyance, for Allah is most high, great above you all. Sahih International at Quran.com. Men are in charge of women by right of what Allah has given one over the other, and what they spend for maintenance from their wealth. So righteous women are devoutly obedient, guarding in the husband's absence what Allah would have them guard. But those wives from whom you fear arrogance, first advise them, then if they persist, forsake them in bed, and finally strike them. But if they obey you once more, seek no means against them. Indeed, Allah is ever exalted and grand. Ahmad Shafat. Men are meant to be righteous and kind guardians of women, because God has favored some more than others, and because they, i.e., men, spend out of their wealth. In their turn, righteous women are meant to be devoted and to guard what God has willed to be guarded, even though out of sight of the husband. As for those women on whose part you fear ill will and nasty conduct, admonish them first, next leave them alone in beds, and last beat or separate them from you. But if they obey you, then seek nothing against them. Behold, God is most high and great. Muhsin Khan, at Quran.com, men are the protectors and maintainers of women because Allah has made one of them to excel the other, and because they spend to support them from their means. Therefore the righteous women are devoutly obedient to Allah and to their husbands, and guard in the husband's absence what Allah orders them to guard, e.g., their chastity, their husband's property, etc. As to those women on whose part you see ill conduct, admonish them first, next refuse to share their beds, and last beat them lightly if it is useful. But if they return to obedience, seek not against them means of annoyance. Surely Allah is ever most high, most great. Mohammed Tahir al-Qadri. Men are guardians of women because Allah has made one superior to the other, and also because men spend their wealth on them. So the pious wives are obedient. They guard their chastity in the absence of their husbands with the protection of Allah. But those women whom you fear will disobey and defy, admonish them, and if they do not amend, separate them from yourselves in beds. And if they still do not improve, turn away from them, striking a temporary parting. Then, if they become cooperative with you, do not seek any way against them. Surely Allah is most high, most great. Lailback Shire, Ph.D., H.D. Men are supporters of wives because God has given some of them an advantage over others and because they spend of their wealth. So the ones who are in accord with morality are the ones who are morally obligated, the ones who guard the unseen of what God has kept safe. But those whose resistance you fear, then admonish them and abandon them in their sleeping place, then go away from them, and if they obey you, surely look not for any way against them. Truly God is lofty, great. Maulvi Shir Ali on behalf of the Ahmadiyya religion. Men are guardians over women because Allah has made some of them excel others, and because they men spend of their wealth. So virtuous women are those who are obedient and guard the secrets of their husbands with Allah's protection. And as for those on whose part you fear disobedience, admonish them and leave them alone in their beds and chastise them. Then, if they obey you, seek not a way against them. Surely Allah is high, great. Verse Lriw Jalukawa W Mona ala tilde Lniw Sai Bima Fada WLA La Wu Badaham ala tilde Badin Wabama and Fakwo Min Amulihim Fal Sa WLI Hatu Kan. Transliteration Are Jalukamana ala An-Nisa Ibima Fadalallahu Badaham ala Badin Wabima Anfaq Min Amulihim Fa as Salahatu Kanatitan Hafizatan El Gabai Bima Hafizallahu wa El Lati Takafanana. Verses in context. Do not covet something in which Allah has made some of you superior to others. For men there is a share of what they earned, and for women a share of what they earned. Pray to Allah for His grace. Surely Allah is all aware of everything. For everyone we have made heirs in what the parents and the nearest of kin have left. As for those with whom you have made a pledge, give them their shares. Surely Allah is witness over everything. Men are caretakers of women, since Allah has made some of them excel the others, and because of the wealth they have spent. So, the righteous women are obedient and guard the property and honor of their husbands in their absence with the protection given by Allah. As for women of whom you fear rebellion, convince them, and leave them apart in beds, and strike them. Then, if they obey you, do not seek a way against them. Surely Allah is the highest, the greatest. If you fear a split between them, the spouses, send one arbitrator from his people and one from her people. If they desire to set things right, Allah shall bring about harmony between them. Surely Allah is all-knowing, all-aware. Al-Quran 32:35. Background of the verse. There are a number of translations of this verse from the Arabic original, and all vary to some extent. Some Muslims, such as Islamic feminist groups, argue that Muslim men use the text as an excuse for domestic violence. In Muhammad's farewell sermon, as recorded in al-Tabari's history, And in a Sahih hadith collected by Abu Dawud, he gave permission to husbands to hit their wives under certain circumstances without severity. Fadriba w darban gaira, mubari w hin fadribu hana darban gaira mubari. Literal translation. Mohammed himself never hit a woman and forbade beating one's wife or striking her face. Another hadith narration of the farewell sermon appears in Sunan Ibn Majah. The Arabic phrase mentioned above is here translated, hit them, but without causing injury or leaving a mark. It was narrated that Sulayman bin Amr bin Awis said, "My father told me that he was present at the farewell pilgrimage with the Messenger of Allah. He praised and glorified Allah and reminded and exhorted the people. Then he said, I enjoin good treatment of women, for they are prisoners with you and you have no right to treat them otherwise, unless they commit clear indecency." There have been several fatwas against domestic violence. Feminist writers have argued that society during Quranic times differed from modern times, especially in how children were reared and raised, creating a need for gender roles. However, these scholars highlight that the Quran can be interpreted differently as society changes. Jonathan A. C. Brown gives the wider scholarly tendency when it comes to the verse. The vast majority of the ulama across the Sunni schools of law inherited the Prophet's unease over domestic violence and placed further restrictions on the evident meaning of the wife-beating verse. A leading Meccan scholar from the second generation of Muslims, Atta bin Abi Rabah, counseled a husband not to beat his wife even if she ignored him, but rather to express his anger in some other way. Darimi, a teacher of both Tirmidhi and Muslim bin Hajjaj as well as a leading early scholar in Iran, collected all the hadiths. A 13th-century scholar from Granada, Ibn Faris, notes that one camp of ulama had staked out a stance forbidding striking a wife altogether, declaring it contrary to the Prophet's example, and denying the authenticity of any hadiths that seemed to permit beating. Even Ibn Hajar, the pillar of late medieval Sunni hadith scholarship, concludes that contrary to what seems to be an explicit command in the Quran, the hadiths of the Prophet leave no doubt that striking one's wife to discipline her actually falls under the Sharia ruling of strongly disliked or disliked verging on prohibited. The first part of the verse about men having authority over women is meant for obedience towards God, not the husband. Background on the roles of men and women in Islam. The Quran states that men are the guardians of women because they are responsible for earning livelihood for the family and female relatives. Women, however, are given a degree of autonomy over their own income. Nevertheless, they are responsible for educating the children, as God has given the one preference over the other. Man is also considered to be the head of the family. The Quran recommends that wives be obedient and adaptable to their husbands. Wives should also keep the secrets of their husbands and protect their honor and integrity. Islamic scholars consider this important in running a smooth family system. Divorced women shall wait concerning themselves for 3 monthly periods. Nor is it lawful for them to hide what Allah hath created in their wombs if they have faith in Allah and the last day. And their husbands have the better right to take them back in that period if they wish for reconciliation. And women shall have rights similar to the rights against them according to what is equitable, but men have a degree of advantage over them. And Allah is exalted in power, wise. Quran 2:228. For both men and women, Psalm known in English as actions of cruelty against someone is explicitly prohibited. Equality of genders throughout the Quran. The equality of men and women is discussed in many places throughout the text. Then began Satan to whisper suggestions to them, bringing openly before their minds all their shame. Quran 7:20. The Quran is also very specific that both men and women should receive equal punishment for wrongdoings. 24:2, and that both men and women are seen as equals under God and will be rewarded for their faith by entering heaven. 124. The woman and the man guilty of adultery or fornication, flog each of them with 100 stripes. Quran 24:2. Whoever does good deed, male or female, and he is believer, he will enter heaven, and not the least injustice will be done to him. Quran 4:124. Male and female relationships in the times of Mohammed. In her book Quran and Women, scholar Amina Wadud writes about the importance of women in the time of Mohammed. During this time, women did not have access to the technology that women today have. For this reason, Wadud writes, the Quran establishes the husband's responsibility as Qiyamah, seeing to it that the woman is not burdened with additional responsibilities which jeopardize that primary demanding responsibility only she can fulfill. The need to reproduce and raise children contributed to the importance of gender roles in the time of Mohammed. Scholar Aisha Chaudhry writes that many Muslims have this fundamentally flawed way of examining the text, writing that despite the potential for such verses 434 examples from Mohammed, the late Ayatollah Sayyid Mohammad Hussein Tabatabai 1903-1981 AD provides the following exegesis on 434 from both Sunni and Shiite sources in his Mizan. Ibn Abi Hatim has narrated through Ashaf ibn Abdul Malik from Al-Hasan that he said, a woman came to the Prophet complaining. Countless such statements are found in the traditions, and one may understand from them. Al-Tabari 839-923 AD wrote that the Prophet never raised his hand against one of his wives, or against a slave, nor against any person at all. In fact, when Mohammed faced rebellion of his wives, rather than beat them, Al-Tabari accounts that he instead stayed away from his wives for 29 nights. Debates and discussion about the text. In response to Nusha's admonishment, leaving wives in their beds and idrabihana are permitted. Islamic scholars agree such actions cannot be undertaken for any reason other than those mentioned in the Quran. See Nushas. Authority of men and its reasons. This allots men authority over women due to following reasons. 1. Because Allah has given some more strength than others. 2. Because men spent from their property to support women, i.e., clothing, residence, and sustenance. The word Qawman is also used at Al-Quran 4:134. Here, it is said that believers should be Qawman with fairness. Men are responsible of maintenance of women. The reason men being Qawman over women is that because men are responsible of earning for women. Characters of pious women. The verse declares that pious women are 1. Obedient, 2. Guarding the unseen as God prescribes. Obedient or Canetat. The verse commands women to be Canetat. The term has been used in Quran 33:35 to refer to men and women alike who are obedient to God. Some commentators use the term to mean obedience to the husband, while others assert that it means obedience to God. Some scholars agree that the husband does not have absolute control over his wife, and her first loyalty is to God. Guarding the unseen. Hafizat is derived from hafiz, meaning to guard. The subjective form is hafiz, meaning a person who guards, and hafizah meaning she who guards, feminine. Hafizat is plural of hafizah, both being feminine. It means that good women guard themselves in the absence of husband as God prescribes. Rebellious women and advice. And those whose rebellion Nushas is feared. It is advised 1. To admonish them. 2. To leave them alone in beds. 3. To beat them. The term nushas is translated as disloyalty and ill conduct by Yusuf Ali, rebellion by Pickthall, and desertion by Shakir. Other scholars have drawn on hadiths to interpret the meaning of the word. To admonish them. The first response to nushas is wa'azi, meaning to first admonish or scold the wife of her behavior. There is strong agreement amongst Muslim scholars that this admonishment must be conducted in a spirit of reconciliation. To leave them alone in beds. According to Tafsir Ibn Kathir, a well-known commentary of Quran, he describes in his exegesis. The Sunan and Musnad compilers recorded that Muawiyah bin Hayda al-Qushayri said, O Allah's Messenger, What is the right that the wife of one of us has on him? The prophet said, to feed her when you eat, clothe her when you buy clothes for yourself, refrain from striking her face or cursing her, and to not abandon her, except in the house. Should the nushes continue, the next step is to refuse to share the bed with the wife. Again, Muslim scholars emphasize on the spirit of healing while conducting this action. To beat them idribuhunna, when they obey. In the Quran's commentary, exegesis of this part of verse is as following: but they return to obedience, seek not against them means of annoyance, meaning when the wife obeys her husband in all that Allah has allowed, then no means of annoyance from the husband are allowed against his wife. Therefore, in this case, the husband does not have the right to beat her or shun her bed. Allah's statement: 1. Not to seek ways against them. In this part of verse, God says that if women obey, then men are not allowed to make excuses against them. Glorification of God. Ibn Kathir, in the commentary of this part of verse, says, surely Allah is ever most high, most great. Reminds men that if they transgress against their wives without justification, then Allah, the ever most high, most great, is their protector, and he will exert revenge on those who transgress against their wives and deal with them unjustly. 1. Exalted. It means that God is exalted. 2. Great. It means that God is great.